Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I am Steve Smith. Well, look, we're all still here after yesterday's drill and test and everything like that. Y'all make it through okay? I think I did, with the exception of this little antenna that just started growing out of the back of my head and this unexplainable desire to obey the new voices in my head. I think I'm fine. Well, I'm not making fun of anything. You know, people, I think those who were concerned about it had valid reasons to be concerned. I figured it was just going to be a test, and it looks like that's exactly what it was. Now, I'm not going to say that that there may not have been things occur as a result of it. I don't know. The government deals with weird stuff that what they're doing right now, we won't know for another 30 years, if ever. So anything could be true. But anyway, it looks like we're all in good shape, and here we are. And neither us or the Ruskies apparently launched anything on each other, and that's good. That's a good way to start the day, isn't it? Grab your Stonemont mug if you have one, and if you don't, you know where to get it, right? Stonemont.us, our website, it's down below. What I want to ask you today and talk about is, are you a positive prepper or a negative prepper? There's a difference, and it's an important difference, because how you come at something can determine how you end up at something, right? And so I want to talk about the difference there, my suggestion, and how you might want to, if you are one, you might want to transition to the other if you can. Before we get to that, I should say, by the way, I just completed, for those of you who are with us on the Patreon channel, and if you're not, the link is down below. Would love to have you come on over. There's a lot more stuff over there than I put on YouTube. So, and it's stuff that you'll enjoy and stuff that you'll get a lot out of. I just finished yesterday completing let me grab it here, the Audible for my first book. The Reversion. Just finished it. 37 parts, because I'd been having people for several years ask me, when are you going to put your books on Audible? And so I looked at all different ways, and I finally just decided, because I had people said, why don't you read it yourself? And I said, well, I'll give that a shot. And so I did, and we're now, the whole first book, The Reversion, is now up on the Stonemont level. That's the second level on the Patreon channel. That costs you $5 a month, and for $5 a month, you get the Audibles, and they'll always be there. So if you want to go back and refer to them, Mike Hoskins just said, well, I just finished the Reversion twice. First one reading it, and the second time listening to you read it, and I like that. For those of you who don't know, that's the first book of the Stonemont series, my books on the complete plan on how to prepare for, survive, and rebuild after a total collapse of everything. The reversion, the revival, the renewal, and appeal to heaven, the blessings of freedom, and hostages to fortune. Those are available also. I'll put the links, I always put the links down below. You can either get them through Amazon, or the better way is through our website, again, stonemont.us. It lets you write a little thing in there to me and say, Steve, would you write this in my book? And I love to do it. Just let me know what you'd like me to write, and I'm happy to do it, because I love my relationship with my readers. That's what started all of this. I wasn't a YouTube guy. I just started the YouTube channel to be able to answer questions about the books. And so there you have it. The first one's up there. Now I'm going to start, and I tell you, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I am not kidding. That's the hardest thing. I've said this before. Rush Limbaugh, I remember when he said, when he wrote his books, and he said that doing the audibles was the hardest thing he'd ever done. And I thought, well, how could that possibly be? You already wrote it. You know what it's going to say. I think that's part of the problem. And how could it be hard just reading what you've already written? It's the writing that's the tough part. Well, the writing isn't easy, I'll tell you that. but it beats digging ditches. But I will tell you, it is tough. There were so many things that I had to take several takes on. I was disgusted. You stumble over your own words and you wonder why, And I think a lot of it is because you know in your head where you're going with it, and so you tend to sometimes kind of space out, and instead of reading the words exactly as they are, you paraphrase, or you anyway. And I'll tell you one thing. I will tell you this, and I'll be real honest. I was not 100% pleased with how I did it. I'll be real honest with you. I listened to some of it, and I realized the difference between reading a book and reading it aloud is that when you read it aloud, you actually have to perform it. And I'm really not much of a performer. I think I got better towards the second half of the book. Some may disagree. I don't know. But I was not at all. Let me say, I was satisfied. I'm glad that I've got the book for people to listen to. But I think I could have done a lot better. And so I'm going to practice on that. And so I will start reading the second book, The Revival, here in a couple of weeks. And that will go up on the Patreon channel on the Stonemont Level 2. We're waiting for the load to come in. We ran out of a couple of the books, and so I'm waiting for those to come in. So I have a copy to put up there and to read out of. But anyway, so I will get better, and after I've gone through the entire series, I'm going to go back and redo the reversion, because hopefully by then I will be better. Okay, let's get to the subject of today. Yesterday's drill, and this is the subject that we've talked about before, and I have, well, let me hold that in abeyance for a moment. Yesterday's drill brought out in very clearly the difference between those who approach preparedness from a positive standpoint and those who approach it from a negative standpoint. And what I mean by that is that I think most people start off in preparedness from the negative, meaning that it's out of a fear of something, right? It comes about from the realization that, oh my gosh, really bad things can happen. This happens in life as you become more aware of things, right? It's just like growing up. The worries you have when you're 18 are more than you had when you were 10, right? Because when you were 10, what worries did you have, right? You thought you had worries, but you didn't. You didn't realize that till you were 18 and had some more worries. And then when you were 18, you thought you had all the worries in the world until you were 25 and realized, now I've really got some worries. And then you think you got worries until you get older and you have kids, right? So, it's the evolution of our life. And as we know more, as we experience more, we are introduced to new challenges and new understandings of the world around us and the threats contained therein. And so I think, as a lot of people come into the preparedness world, I think a lot of them come in through things like that old disaster preppers. That was not the name of it. What it was, anyway, it was a show about the preppers, and then the zombie show and everything like that. That's really what brought preparedness to the masses. Now, there had always been those of us who had been of a preparedness mindset. In the old days, they were called survivalists. I told you that my father started teaching me bushcrafting when I was 10, and then throughout my early teens and later teens, taught me all of the skills and things, and I loved it. I loved it all through that. Went through scouting and all that, but I learned a lot more from on the farm and through my dad and all that. But and then all through my 20s, when, well, it doesn't matter. You've heard me talk about that before, and so I've always lived a preparedness lifestyle. And so I never really went through that first phase that many people go through of the fear of, oh my gosh, things could happen, simply because it was introduced to me, from a very young age, and in bits and pieces, just as a normal part of life. Life can be dangerous, life can be challenging, life can be threatening. It's up to you to prepare to be able to take care of yourself. And I had, both sets of grandparents who had come through the Depression, and I learned those lessons. They didn't really sit down and talk a lot about it, but they simply, their lifestyle reflected those experiences and the responsibility that they had assumed in order to get their families through it. And so that was kind of where I came at it. So I never had that. I never went through that fear phase that I think a lot of newer preppers have when they are first faced with the understanding that, oh my gosh, horrible things can happen, right? Doomsday Preppers, that was the name of that show, wasn't it? And so that came on, and that just scared the dickens out of a lot of people. They made it out, a lot of those people, to look silly, and that's too bad. And I don't understand why I do understand why they did it. Made for good TV. But that drew a lot of people who saw past the silliness and says, you know what, some of these things can happen, and I'd better be prepared. And through that realization, I think that fear drove a lot of people. I do say that one of the things that really got me to kind of go to the next phase of preparedness, as opposed to just a prepared lifestyle, was when I realized the validity of EMP, right? And a CME. When I realized that an EMP was possible and what the ramifications of that would be, and then as I studied more and I started, studying the Carrington event and a CME, and I found that the scientists tell us it's assured, that changed my thinking. So I evolved at that point, and that's why I wrote my books. Okay, because this is what it's about. A complete, it's a CME, takes out the world, and did I say this before, the complete plan for how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a complete collapse of everything. That's why I started writing my books. But when I realized that really was a possibility, that the most horrible things in the world may not just be the things that we had thought about before, I won't say that it was fear, but I'll say that it was a realization that I had better up my game a lot in order to ensure the survival of my kids. And I tell people this, I said, imagine if you need to do this, if you don't realize how bad things could be. Imagine looking into the faces of your children. You're out of food, they're starving to death, and they're begging you for something to eat. And they say, Daddy, I'm hungry, and you have nothing to give them. Imagine that. If that creates a fear in you, well, then good. Then use that as your impetus to prepare better, right? If that just brings it home to you, like it did to me, okay, well, good. Then let that be the driving force to up your game a whole lot of steps. So what the difference here is between, and I saw in the comments on yesterday's, the difference of how people were approaching this. Many people, and I see this across the preparedness spectrum, a lot of people come at it from a negative standpoint. They come at it because of what they're afraid of. And while I understand that a negative position might be helpful if that's what the person needs to start, it's a bad place to stop. Too many people stay in that negative area. And what I mean by that is that people, and many preppers, I'll tell you, many preppers are the biggest pessimists in the world, because they're always looking for a reason that something won't work. And just read the comments, if mine or probably any other channel. And, we'll say something and somebody, you'll always get comments, yeah, but this will, whatever. Your money won't be worth anything. That's a person who wants to stay in a negative position, always fearful of things. And that's a defensive position. But there's I won't call it a neurosis, but there is a psychological need, I think, on the part of many for that. And they need something to be afraid of. They need something to be all, twisted up about. Because it feeds into some psychological need. I could go into it and I think explain it, but I won't. I think we'll leave it at that. But you know how you've known negative people, right? You've known people that no matter what in the world has going on, the first thing they're going to say to you, you see them coming, it's going to be negative, right? It's going to be a beautiful day. And you say, hey, it isn't a beautiful day. Yeah, but it'll probably rain. What kind of life must that be? I don't understand it. It's an unhappy life. And yet that's where a lot of preppers, I think, they hold that position. Now, all through my books and all through my videos, I try to promote the idea of positive preparedness. Not thinking about all the horrible things that can happen, but understanding that horrible things can happen and simply going from that standpoint and saying, what am I going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? How are you going to prepare so that this horrible thing that could happen doesn't have a horrible effect on you? I think in the foreword of my first book, Middleton said, It's an amazingly, something to this effect. I won't get it right. I could pick it up and read it, but I won't keep you for that. An amazingly positive story about an amazingly negative situation. That's right. Are you familiar with the term? You probably are. Are you familiar with the saying? Your attitude determines your altitude. That's really right. It's not what happens around you, not what happens to you so often. It's the attitude you have in dealing with it. It's not where you start, it's where you stop. It's the process of saying, well, are you saying, well, this is happening to me and how horrible that is and what am I going to do? Okay. And I tell you about, probably the majority of the world is like that. Or it's saying, well, okay, here's the next challenge that I'm going to deal with. Okay. Now let's see how to deal with it, and then deal with it. It's understandable that many people start their preparedness journey from that negative standpoint, through the position of fear. No problem. I don't put that down at all. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you should be afraid of until you understand them. And that's what, you treat fear by understanding it, and then developing a way to deal with it, with the situation that's causing you the fear. And then you shouldn't be in that fearful stage anymore. And so, even though I think that it's normal that a lot of people start that way, I think that it is disastrous to the person to stay there. And so what I want to do with this is to encourage you, if this applies to you, get out of that negativity and get into the positive preparedness by assuming the responsibility for taking care of yourself and those who depend on you, assuming the responsibility of figuring it out. What needs to be done? What do I need to do? We talked about this yesterday. If this drill turned out to be something more than a drill, are there areas that you need to tighten up on? It was a good time to take a look at it and say, yeah, I'm a little short on this. I need to tighten up on that. Then do it. Don't just sit back and go, well, I don't know what's going to, So get to that next step. Assume the responsibility. Approach it in a positive way. And then do what it takes. And you're going to not feel fearful. You're going to feel empowered, and not a fake empowerment. not a fake empowerment. You know, I'll give you a couple of examples. Remember Elway, John Elway with the Broncos? You remember how he used to be able to pull a game out, 9 million points behind and 30 seconds to go, and he'd still win? We got somebody like that in Kansas City now, Mahomes. Mahomes and Travis Kelce were at my son's school's football game the other night. Anyway, you don't pull out a win by trying not to lose. Okay, that's another good analogy. You pull out the win by saying, my goal is to win. How am I going to do it? And then do it. You're going to find that when you evolve from the negative mindset to the positive mindset, you're going to feel, even though I hate this word, I'll use it again, empowered. You're going to feel as if you are in charge of your life and your destiny. Except for God himself, which, you always want, he's the first thing to go to. Lord, help me in this, direct me in this, okay, protect me. That's what I do. But you want to assume that primary responsibility. And then you are going to feel positive about it. And as you open from that negativity to the positivity, you're going to see all different kinds of opportunities open up to you. And you're going to see things are possible that you never considered before. You're going to understand that you can do them. It's just a matter of figuring out the way to do them. But until you escape the negativity, you're never going to see it. If you consume yourself with thoughts or with watching programs or whatever that are constantly bombarding you with negativity. Oh, this is horrible. It's never been this bad in history. This is the worst it's ever going to be. Your money's not going to be any good. No matter what you do, you're going to be overrun by marauders. There's a big industry of people who want you to feel that way. But how does that serve you? It doesn't. Break free of that. Be the master of your own fate, as Invictus says, under God himself. So that's what I want to encourage everybody. Get out of the negative mindset. Jump to the positive side. Come to the light side. What is it? Dark side, light side? I've never watched any of those movies, so I'm probably using that improperly. I don't care. But come over to the positive side. And then start thinking, how can I make my life better? Not how can I survive the horrible things that are coming. No. How can I make my life better every day? Not just how can I ensure that I'm going to be okay and my family's going to be okay after the big collapse, but how can I improve my life daily now? Because that's what I say. The whole concept of integrative preparedness is to be able to live well outside and divorced from those external interrelated systems over which you have little or no control. And it's not just meant to enable you to survive later, but everything you do should also serve, it's like a dual use. It should also serve to better your life now. Yeah, we've talked all about that before, so I won't go through that, at least in this one. We say at the end of or I do, I don't know, maybe some of you follow along. I say at the end of every video, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Okay, I don't say we prepare fearfully in order to barely survive tomorrow. Okay, but we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And you can only prepare well with a positive attitude. Because if you're doing it out of fear, if you're doing it out of negativity, You're going to do it wrong. You're going to waste time. You're going to waste money. You're going to waste mental energy. And you're not going to get where you want to be, unless where you want to be is constant fretting and complaining about how horrible things are. And there's nothing you can do about it. Okay? So jump out of that. Jump out of that mud puddle and come up into the world of positivity. And to close out, I'll just say it one more time. Did I say everything? I forget. Yeah. The books. Oh, did I say mugs? If you don't have your Stone Mountain mug, get it through the website, stonemount.us. And I did tell you that I finished the first book reversion on the Patreon channel. We'd love to have you on the Patreon channel, by the way. If you can afford $1 a month, it'll be the best $1 a month you've ever spent. And we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. So get out there, do something today, prepare well, have a positive spirit, because like that old saying says, and it's right, your attitude's going to determine your altitude. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.